You're listening to the 3 Feet Radio Show with Ben Carbonaro and Luke Herbert. From our studios come special guests and netball commentary, exclusively on YouTube.
G'day listeners, welcome to the 3 Feet Radio Show. It's post ANZ Championship season time now. We're looking ahead to the internationals, namely the Netball World Cup, and joining me in the studio today is my co-host Luke Herbert. G'day Luke.
G'day Ben, and we've managed something of a feat here, and the listener will understand after you introduce who our guest is today, but today's guest is joining us on the couch in the studio at the exact same time as the Silver Ferns World Cup squad is being named. So, we may not manage this again, Ben.
No, we won't, and it is with a coincidence today that we talked to Australian Diamonds coach in Lisa. G'day Lisa, how are you today?
G'day, how are you? It's really good timing, isn't it? We can have a discussion about it. You can let me know who's in the team.
Well, I think, Lisa, Luke would know that more than me, but just to get things going here, what did you take out of the thriller of the ANZ Championship Grand Final between the Firebirds and the Swifts?
Oh, just that netball keeps getting better within seasons and within international tests. It keeps improving. It's quite amazing to see the improvements in skills and defensive ability, attacking ability, and the athleticism and the mental toughness of the athletes is just all on show in that game, and it was a truly remarkable game.
Just staying with the ANZ Championship Grand Final just for one moment. As a coach of Australian Diamonds, do you see the flow-on effect from games like that when you come to select the squad or just when the Australian Diamonds take to the court?
Yeah, you certainly do see that, Luke, when the athletes come into the squad camps or the team camps and we get that combination of the best, you see that extra step up, that real desire and I guess that want to improve what they're doing and, the skills and ability they're putting out there together as, defensive units or attacking units. And, that's a great thing when they do come in. They, I guess, put their competitiveness against each other aside and use it to the greater good, which is, to assist the Australian team to stay number one.
And Lisa, just looking at the squad or team that you have picked for the Netball World Cup, would you say it's a bit more experience than what you picked for the one that went to Glasgow for the Commonwealth Games?
Yes, slightly, but slightly not. It sounds like a bit of an oddball answer, but, we've obviously included Paige Hadley and many could say that that's, a replacement for Maddie Robinson. Now, probably at this stage, you'd say a Maddie is more experienced as an international player than a Paige. However, I think Paige's second half of her ANZ Championship seasons show that she's got that ability to lift her performance to that very high level, both in wing attack and centre. So, that probably is a slightly less experienced lineup. Erin Bell coming in and coming back in, you could argue that that's slightly more experience because she probably has had more experience, particularly of World Cups, than, say, a Tegan Phillips. So it's about level playing field, I think, and what we've tried to put into our group is a really strong and flexible group that can take on any opposition important for tournament play, particularly this World Cup, which is just going to be so difficult and challenging with all the hard games that we have to play and then, to make sure we're playing at our best at the finals weekend. So it's going to be a great challenge for all of us.
And, just speaking of the games at the World Cup, and this is, one of the things Ben and I have touched on a bit off air, but one of the highlights of pool play at the Netball World Cup will be always the game between the Australian Diamonds and the New Zealand Silver Ferns. Traditionally, these two teams are not met during pool play in major tournaments. Do you view it as an advantage to face them before the finals and medal matches?
Oh, look, I think it's not unusual, particularly for Australian coaches and Australian teams, because, as I've said before, we have a system where we compete against each other at nationals, and we do have to play the harder teams in the week prior to the final. So from that point of view, it presents not an unusual challenge, and also the fact that we do play test series against the Silver Ferns, and we have to play, sometimes up to 5 tests against them and prepare each time. So we've had a bit of experience at it. It doesn't daunt us, and in fact, I think is an advantage for both teams because they get to, get the feelers out early in the tournament, see where you're both at and where everything's, where everyone's performances are sitting at, and then to have another go at it later in the week, hopefully, when and if the teams meet in the finals.
And Lisa, you're saying it would be a good opportunity to assess where you're at and where the Silver Ferns are at. And then therefore, how much importance would you place on the game compared to if it was a finals or, say, a medal match?
Oh, look, it's always, every game's important to us. Every time we go out and compete for our country, it's important. So we're not going to be in a situation where we're going to be playing ducks and drakes and not trying to show our best. We'll put out what we think is our best because, you don't take chances with winning games at World Cup and tournaments. I've never been a believer in that. And you put your best out at that particular time.
All right, Dan, and I just want to stay at the World Cup for one moment. And before we come back to any questions of selections and other topics, this is something Ben and I were actually discussing quite keenly off air. But there's 2 major events in the current 4-year cycle, and last year's Glasgow Commonwealth Games and this year's Netball World Cup, and that's for this year's 4-year cycle. What's it like to prepare for both in one cycle? Because a lot of other sports usually only have one major event in each 4-year cycle.
Yeah, look, it's very tricky, particularly when, your funding relies on your performances at those benchmark events. And, particularly for Commonwealth Games, because it is our, Australian Commonwealth Games, team. It's a bigger team than just the netball family. So it has great significance in the Australian sporting landscape, and it's important for us to be competing at our absolute best there as well. And then, you've got World Cup as well, which in the netball world is the ultimate. And so it's a matter of, making sure that we're continuing to work on our depth and our playing stocks and to work really hard back in the ANZ Championship franchises to continue that improvement in all the athletes. And I think what we've managed to do this year is to have probably a stronger squad available to select from for this team for the World Cup, albeit, Maddie's injury, which wasn't ideal, but, we've had a fantastic, group of athletes put their hands up for that spot. So in many respects, it's a bit of a balancing act. Which one do you peak for? Well, you have to peak for both. And you also have to make sure that you're very mindful of current form, and that the players are working hard 12 months of the year towards that, great goal of making that World Cup team and then, hopefully winning that for Australia.
And Lisa, you were talking about how big the depth is and that sort of thing. What's been made of shooter Susan Pettit's non-selection? Is her non-selection a reflection of just how much depth we have in the shooting department? Because it's not just her. There's others that have missed out too, but others who have made the team. And as we've previously discussed when I've interviewed before, or just we've had a chat when I used to work with you at Netball Australia, the dearth of shooters we have in this country is huge.
We're absolutely really fortunate. And it's never easy selection time to tell players that they've missed out on a team. And they've really, they've done really nothing wrong other than, work very, very hard for their team and put their hand up. And certainly, Susan was one of those athletes. But, we've also got Tegan Phillip, who's missed out on the team. She may not have had as strong a season. So it's disappointing. But the great thing is for our sport overall, for the Australian team and the Diamonds, it just shows that it's really difficult to get into this 12 and that you have to ensure that you are doing everything in your power, off the court and on the court, to get yourself into that position to be selected. I could have easily put another team in, and it still would have maybe competed really well at World Cup as well. And then there's all the finer points around combinations and, what sort of matchups are going to work best against our opposition. Have we got all of, the skills and repertoire that we need for the Australian team to perform well at this tournament? So it's a, very complex set of factors that goes into the selection of the team.
The only thing I would add to that is that right about now, the Kiwi listeners are going to be drowning in envy at the kind of depth that you had to choose from, Lisa. That's all I will say about that. But I do want to just move along, and I want to move on to the Australian Under-21 team, which was announced yesterday. So could you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, look, they're a great, bright young team, and I think, some of them are already putting, out there on the ANZ Championship court, and your Liz Watsons and your Jo Westons and your Chloe Watsons, who are already showing their ability to, put that high level of performance week in, week out. So we're very excited about the talent on offer there. And also, it gives some of them an opportunity to really shine. Some of them have been sitting on benches, with their ANZ Championship team. So, a Cody Lange or a Kaylee Stanton get their opportunity to put their hand up and really, make their mark too. We're really excited about the centre court. We think it's very strong, and, that depth in that area, is terrific for our sport.
And I think also too, Lisa, the fact that they'll be playing against the likes of a New Zealand A and some other countries as well, heading into Netball World Cup, it's sort of like you said, gives the girls an opportunity to shine. And if they do well enough, maybe it will ensure that their ANZ Championship careers can kick off in 2016 and they can get more opportunities.
Yeah, and look, there is going to be a bit of a changing of the guard next year. You can see that already, that there's been a couple of retirements, and we know that there's going to be some change, and it's really important we get our young talent out on court to show what they can do, and give them those opportunities. So something that I've been talking about for a while is that, we do have a lot of our youngsters sitting on benches, and that's just the nature and the high level of the competition. But next year's a great opportunity for those athletes to have a go, and see what they can do, and see how much, how much forward they can take the sport and the competitiveness of the game.
And just speaking of, development pathways, which really ties into what you were just talking about, how do you enjoy identifying new talent that's coming through the ranks?
Yeah, look, it's probably my favourite part of the job really is when I'm out there working with the institutes of sport around the country, and I get to do that every year when I do my visits to each state as part of my ANZ Championship visit program. I get to work with younger level as well, and even also at the Netball Centre of Excellence. And it's a great privilege to do that, and to see the talent that's coming through and work with that talent. And I was lucky enough to coach the 19 and under green team, I think it was last year, and just got to know the athletes just that little bit better, and they get a real understanding of what I'm looking for as a national coach in them as athletes. And also I get to know them and see, that great talent coming through, and it's exciting, and knowing that, in the future we've got some, brilliant youngsters that are going to take over, those positions. That's an exciting part of the sport.
And just one last one, Lisa. Julie Corletto has decided to retire after the Netball World Cup. She announced that yesterday. How will you remember her as a player and as a person?
Oh, look, I've coached Julie for so long, and she was part of my, I think, Phoenix, training partners, when I first took over Phoenix back in 2002 from Joyce Brown. And Julie Corletto came in as one of which is Julie Prendergast then. She came in as one of our very up-and-coming talented youngsters in Victoria. And you just knew then that there was something special about her. She had great athleticism and just was able to get, the netball skills and the athleticism together in that nice balance. And she's so competitive and such a hard trainer, and just super competitive in terms of wanting to win. And you saw that on the training track all the time as well. So to be a part of, her whole netball journey as a coach is it's a great privilege from my perspective. And, to see her, announce her retirement the other day, it's all part of that cycle, in what we talk about in the netball cycle. And I think she's hopefully going to go out on the top. So she's going to work very hard in this next period of time to make sure she's in absolutely tip-top shape to do the best that she possibly can for her country. And she always puts team first too. That's part of it, and that's why she decided to, announce her retirement early, because she knew she was moving on to the next phase of her life, and she wanted to do the right thing by the New South Wales Swifts and the Diamonds. And she said to me, I just want to get it out of the way so we can concentrate on what we've got to do and the job we've got to get done. So that's just an indicator of her character and what a great person she is and what a great leader and a great teammate that she is as well.
And just before I leave, Julie, I just want to ask you one question about her, because something that impressed me about her was her ability to adapt to different team environments in the ANZ Championship. And I think we saw that when she went to the Mystics. So, what does it take from a great player like Julie to be able to do that?
Oh, look, it takes, terrific individual discipline, really, to do that and do it well. I remember the conversation we had, and I had it with Daryl as well, 3 years ago when Julie was considering the move over to New Zealand, and we talked about what she needed to do. I didn't have any doubts that she'd be able to do the work that we required her to do as an Australian Diamond. That wasn't my issue. It was more around making sure personally that she was going to be happy. And, in that case, there's no real issues. Julie is very adaptable. She will work very hard for the team. She definitely listens to, the experts in that group and the coaches, and she sees it as a great learning opportunity. And she learnt a lot about New Zealand netball, from, her perspective that she was able to let us know about, in no uncertain terms. And it wasn't necessarily about game plans and things like that. It was more about attitude and how, the Kiwis went about their business over there. So I guess from our point of view, what that did was enabled us to know, well, we're on the right track in the work that we're doing, and we need to keep doing that work and staying very focused on becoming, the world's best high performance program. And Julie's been a great driver in that. She's given the group great confidence in their ability to put terrific performances out there. And I guess, just her experience that she's gained, playing with, international players of great standing and against international players of great standing has also added to her ability to, influence an outcome in a match.
Okay, Lisa, thanks very much for joining us today. It's been a long time between drinks. Haven't seen you around for a while, but, I'm always floating around, and, you're always welcome on our show to speak to Luke and I.
Look, it's a great privilege to be on 3 Feet Radio. It's always, when I get the request, I always make the time. So thank you very much, Ben and Luke.
And thank you, and I'd just like to wish you well for the World Cup and wish the Australian Diamonds well, and that I hope there's no major injuries or anything like that, because I think whatever happens result-wise, which Ben and I are going to tackle on a later show, I think the spectacle, particularly of the final and the semis of the World Cup, is going to be something very special.
Oh, absolutely. I can't wait. It's going to be very, very exciting.
You've been listening to the 3 Feet Radio Show with Ben Carbonaro and Luke Herbert. Tune in next time for more special guests and netball commentary exclusively on YouTube.